And she's like, I go and I'm like, she's like, oh, did Minnie say anything to you? I'm like, she said you were invited home for tea. And she's like, oh, that's the code. She's like, oh, we had like a message system, and that message means uh, that I've been away from home too long, and that my daughter wants to me to come see her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, thank God, because Jesus Christ, 150 for a speech check is insane. But I did it, and I go and I talk to them both, and they're both kind of like, yeah, relationship's a bit strained, and I'm like, yeah, no shit. You were a perfectionist and you were an absentee parent. No wonder it was fucking strained. And I go and I'm like,
There we go.
oh,
Okay,
okay.
we're back.
Yep.
Sorry, we were having problems on our end.
Yep.
So I've done a couple things.
Yes.
First off, I had to hunt for a copy of
Oh yeah.
Tales of Light and Life from Barnes and Noble. That was a hunt, but I found it. It is Barnes and Noble copy is now the one up there, which it has the Jedi symbol instead of the lightsabers on the cover. That was a thing. Took me a while to find that. I went online, making sure they had a copy before I went to the store because our closest Barnes and Noble is about an hour from my house,
Yeah.
but 30 minutes
It's
from
a
where I
trip.
work. So it's a trip. They did have it. I went there, couldn't find it in any of the normal sections that you would look. Eventually, went to the help desk. They found it, and then I started skimming through it. And I went to Rogue Element because that's the main reason we got it.
Yeah.
And right there's a
Yeah.
smudge right on the front. So I
The good
went.
news is it's not over an important word.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
the word the. So like you know what the word is. Like it's not a word where you're like, what is it? No, you can tell it's the word the. But I went back to see if there was another copy. There was not. I in fact got the last copy. So yeah. So that was my hunt for that.
Yep.
On top of that, I've been catching up on TV shows, which now I can talk about. I caught up on Gen V. I watched the entire first season, which it's a spinoff of The Boys.
Okay.
And its premises, it takes place at uh, Godolkin University, which is a superhero university. You follow a hemokinetic hero, and she's basically a orphan because when she discovered her powers, she killed her parents.
It's rough, buddy.
Yeah, because she discovered her
Tell me
powers.
what I want to know, lady.
She discovered her powers while she was having her period for the first time.
Okay.
And hemokinetic, so blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, she accidentally killed her parents with her own blood.
Damn.
Yeah. And but the premise is you follow her, and there's a kind of a mystery aspect to it because so Arnold Schwarzenegger's son Patrick is a main character in the first episode, and he does something that I'm just like, God, I want to see more of this guy. I want to see more of this guy. I want to see more of Patrick Schwarzenegger. He's really good. I watched the first episode of the new season of Invincible.
Oh yeah. I couldn't figure it.
Like these are major revelations to the point where I'm like, y'all shouldn't be learning this yet, but y'all have played so smart that I kind of got to give them to you. And so, like, and we also had some player revelations where some of the players revealed their secrets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to spoil it because it's not public on the YouTube channel yet, but it is on the Patreon. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So that is session 4, which sessions 3 and 4 are not public yet on YouTube, but like I said, they're on Patreon. So if you want to watch ahead and know what's going on, they're up there. What else did I do? Oh, today I bought some battle maps and stuff because Humble Bundle is doing this thing where they partnered with Roll20, and it even includes a free month of Roll20. So for their plus, but not their premium, it basically gives you $5.99 off. So if you want the premium, you can, but it's still going to cost you some money. But if you want just the plus, then it's free for a month. But it also includes, they gave a bunch of battle maps, some tiles, some character tokens, some of the books. I was showing you some of the books that they gave. They gave like the Fallout RPG,
Yeah.
which I was like, that's gonna be up your alley.
You're like,
We got to
we're
play
gonna
that.
have to do this one.
Yeah,
I'm like,
because
I
I know
wonder
you. Because I
where-
know you.
yeah, I wonder where they're gonna set it.
From what I've heard, I think it's because that's the more
California.
that's the more classic
Yeah.
Fallout setting.
They're actually like, actually, we're gonna send it off in fucking Wisconsin.
Yeah, like
I'm like, why would you?
because most Fallout is like West.
Yeah.
It's very much a Western, whereas like 3 and 4 are the exceptions
Yeah,
to that
those
rule.
are East Coast.
And 76 is West Virginia, but I'd still argue it's a Western just because of how it plays.
Mhm.
It's still a Western in story, even though that's East Coast still.
Yeah.
And then what else was there? Dune was a big one that I was happy to see. Cyberpunk, which we mentioned earlier. Yeah. Cyberpunk's in there. Cyberpunk Red specifically.
I remember like a long time ago we had a conversation about Dune, and I explained to you like the one thing I know about it is that the spice is important,
yeah,
but not why it was important.
So it's basically,
and I just took a wild guess and was right about it.
Yeah, because it's a drug that also acts as like a super inhibitor sort of thing, and it
also allows people to fly starships. And I was like,
yeah,
that was my guess.
Yeah, it's also it's also the fuel. Yeah, it's very important throughout all of Dune. It's like it's literally everything.
A movie that if I have seen, it has been like once in a background memory.
Oh, the original, like the original, the weird one.
Yeah. Actually, I have like a fucking VHS copy of that somewhere in my house.
Where you have what's his name? I just forgot his name. Sting. Sting is in it. You know, the singer Sting. In metal underwear, flying around. That's what that's part of what he does in that film. And so then yeah, so I got all that, and it was like $30 for all of that. So I was just like, and it's Humble Bundle, so it's going to a good cause generally. So I was just like, yeah, I'll bite the bullet, because the main thing is it's hard for me to find sci-fi battle maps and assets. Like they're really hard to find. It's very easy to find fantasy ones because everybody is making fantasy ones. Like if you ask anybody who does battle maps, they'll always be like, here's some fantasy maps, and it's like, cool. Can I have some sci-fi stuff though?
Yeah, because you're big into science fiction.
Like
surprise.
Yeah, like I do Star Wars games, so I need some sci-fi maps.
Like, I need a map of a goddamn starship, but there's like 1 or 2 maps of a goddamn starship.
Which also Star Trek assets as well, because for this Humble Bundle pack, because they also did Star Trek stuff. I think it's going for like 5 more days. Is this Humble Bundle? All so, right. If you're a DM like me and you want some more assets on the cheap, and and in the case of Roll20, they let you download the maps. Like, sure, you're buying it through them, but you can still download the maps onto your computer and use them in other stuff, because I use Tabletop Simulator more than Roll20. So, I mean, I use both, but like when I'm like lately, I've been doing Tabletop Simulator because there's more I feel like I can do at the moment. But that might change as I'm getting more assets from Roll20. I'm like, I might switch to Roll20. And so, yeah, so plenty of reasons to get it. What else have been? Oh, yesterday I started playing, because I've had it for a while, and now that I'm done with my first run of Baldur's Gate 3, I can start playing it. Stray Gods. So it's a role-playing game, and it's the first game from this new studio that David Geider, the guy who worked at BioWare and did Dragon Age Origins and 2.
Okay.
He started this company, and it's a role-playing game that's also a musical.
Yes, I fucking thought it was OSP talks about it, and I was trying to remember where I'd heard the name before.
Yeah, so it's a role-playing game that's also a musical, which it's basically it's an amalgamation of things I love.
Yeah.
So it's a role-playing game. It's from David Geider, which I like his writing. It's a musical, which if you know me,
I fucking love musicals.
And then on top of that, it's also a murder mystery. So it's because the premise is the Greek gods have mostly died out. They are now called idols, and there's like the only ones remaining are Athena, Apollo, um, who else? Uh, Aphrodite, and um, a few others. Pan is
Yeah.
there, um, Hermes, and technically not a god, but becomes a god, an idol in this universe.
Mm.
Persephone, Hades is,
Yeah.
yeah. So not she becomes the queen, like, and they explain that she became the queen of the underworld at some point. So
Yeah.
basically moved to godhood essentially.
Well, she was always a divine being.
But she wasn't really considered a god. Like she wasn't given a domain ever really in Greek mythology. They kind of were just
Fair
like
enough.
they were kind of just like you're Hades' wife.
Yeah.
But so premise is that in the modern world they are idols now. They're mostly dying out, and as they've died out, they basically have to live in secrecy.
Yeah.
And so, um, unfortunately, then you run into a muse
Mm.
who dies. She is murdered by somebody. You don't know who, but she basically gives her essence to you, making you a divine being.
Mm-hmm.
So you are now a muse with her abilities, all of
Yeah.
her muse abilities. Which is a key factor of the story because that is how it becomes a musical. Because one of those abilities is you can force people to sing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they incorporate the musical part of the story. They're like, here's why it's a musical.
Yep.
And so the the main idols, so Athena, Apollo, Aphrodite, and Persephone are like, hey, we don't let usurpers become gods, and since we can't prove that you weren't the one who killed the muse, we have to assume you did. So we're sentencing you to death. And Apollo's the only one who speaks out initially, and he's like, I don't feel right about this, actually. We should give her a chance to prove her innocence. And so it becomes a murder investigation of you trying to prove your innocence, figure out who killed the muse, and using your musical abilities
I do like
in the
that.
process.
I forget when this is pointed out, but at a certain point, like when you try to use that ability on Apollo, he just says no.
Yeah, so
And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. He's the god of music. Of course, he could just
well,
say no.
yeah, so I got to it, and I actually he let me do it with like
Yeah.
so
Like you have to do it
you have
a very
to
specific way.
and so when you start the game, so there is no combat. It's not a traditional RPG in that
No.
sense. It's more of a it's more story. What's the type of game that I'm thinking of where it's more story like it's I forget the term, but it
Has what is the
where they're
gameplay?
more like story, like almost like
Oh, you mean like visual novels?
yeah, it's more visual novel than like straightforward RPG.
Yeah.
It has RPG elements, which I think is why it's still because you still choose your dialogue options and stuff like that. But at the start, instead of picking like stats, you pick what type of personality
Mm-hmm.
your character, Grace, has, which is like aggressive, uh, charming, intelligent, and I went with intelligent, which has worked out so far. That one's like working out for me so far. I'm still in Act 1, so like I just did the Apollo song.
Oh, you're
and
gonna find out some stuff later on.
yeah, and I read like the warnings because at the beginning they gave like all these like trigger warnings, because which was nice, but it's still like, oh, these are things I gotta be aware of that are about to happen. Which they gave like the death warning. They were like, oh yeah, somebody dies right off the bat and also dies near. So like at the beginning of the game, I was on edge. I'm like, who's gonna die? And then the muse dies, and I'm like, oh,
Mm.
it's a murder mystery. And then there's also like a suicide warning at the halfway point, and apparently, and so, um, so it's a fun game so far. I'm enjoying it. I like Pan. Pan is a bastard. He's a lovable bastard. Because like I don't pick it. So during his song, you have to choose between Pan and your friend, that like your lifelong friend, Grace's lifelong friend, to basically trust more, or you could say fuck both of you. But I said fuck Pan. I was like, lifelong friend. What? Like I just met you, Pan, and like on top of that, like I know how God shit works. I agreed to work with you, and this is gonna bite me in the ass. Because I don't want. I mean, I still owe him a favor because he still points you to the muse's
Yeah.
apartment because he's still like, for story reasons, they still have to give you the apartment. They're like, you still got to be able to know where to go next for your investigation, which is where you find Apollo and then you do Apollo song, and which I liked. I love all the songs so far. They are really good. And so I'm just loving this game. I'm glad I got it because it was like one of the, like on PlayStation it was for the app they have like this thing where you can accrue points.
Yeah.
And so one of them is like buy certain games. Like every month they'll be like, here's certain games that you should buy that will give you extra points, right? And Stray Gods was one of them, and I was like, that's a game I've been keeping an eye on anyways. I saw it on GOG, and now it's on PlayStation. I was like, I'll go ahead and get it because I've been keeping an eye on it anyways. It's cheap. It's from people I trust, and so
why not?
Yeah, and it worked out. It's a fun game, and it's Greek mythology, which I like. It's a murder mystery. It's a musical. It's a role playing game. It's there's a bunch of things I like. So I say if you like any of that stuff, I don't think I've spoiled any major things, and so
I have some spoilers, but I don't want to ruin.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, so I don't think I've spoiled anything major. So if y'all want to check it out, if y'all
maybe next paycheck for me, I'll go and buy it.
Yeah, or we could sit down and play it together too, if sometime too, because I mean, there's multiple ways to play it. I still after I do this run, I want to see what aggressive looks like, and I want to see what charming looks like. I want to see what, and I might say screw my friend and team up with Pan. Yeah, like I'm curious, like of all the like different like workings and different types of pathing and how that affects the story. I'm trying to play smart this run though, because I'm really like, I need to like make sure I solve this mystery because they made it clear that if you do not solve it, you die.
You will fucking die.
Which they call the main idols, so the 4 that I mentioned, they call them the chorus because they're in charge of everything. So keeping with the musical theme. And Hermes is like the messenger still, so does exactly what Hermes does. So they're very much in line with what you think, but they also point out things that are like, oh, that's just the myths. That's not what we are, which I think that's a creative way because, I mean, that's the benefit of working with mythology is you can.
There's got to be some explanations later to you that are going to help make things both better and worse.
Yeah, like, and the benefits of it being mythology is that they can rewrite things to be like, oh, that's just the stories, and then although the Pan one was funny, I was like, I know the stories about you being a drunk and all that. He's like, oh, you know those. Oh.
The college years were wild.
But yeah, it's a fun game. I highly suggest it to anybody who likes that type of stuff. If you like Greek mythology, you like, it's also very much you can tell it's a passion project, and you can also tell that it's more open to other parts of the fandom. It's not just for straight white men. It's very much a diverse game. So if you want something with a little more diversity that's also original and creative, I suggest it. So that's what I've been up to. Let's go ahead and get into today's news because we are running a little late. And today's news has a bit of a pattern. It's all video game news. So firstly, Minecraft's Path of the Jedi DLC was released. I haven't touched it yet, but they did drop a release trailer to show everything off, so let's check that out and discuss it. Let me pop it up for everybody else.
Yeah.
That would be nice, because then they could see it.
Indeed.
Oh, we got some Ilum. Getting your Master Hu Yang. Oh, double. Yeah, they mentioned. I think we talked about that last time we talked about it, that you could dual wield. Oh, that looks so cool. Oh. This is like Battlefront level with some of that. Lucia. Tatooine, obviously. You gotta have Tatooine. It's Star Wars. You can be evil. Oh, that looks so fun. Okay. Let me see. Oh, what? Was there a...
No, it's
Oh, that one. Oh, since we talked about them. I think we've talked about them for 2 weeks now in a row.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's looking at the end of YouTube videos. You know how it shows like the next videos you should watch on the recommended. One of them is talking about dreams.
Oh God, I'm sorry, it's like the one they picked for the screen. She's like mid slap.
Yeah, it's from Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
When what's her name? I forget her name because it's been so long. But when she's about to slap Ethan.
I was gonna say Elliot Page, but that's
not... No, that's Beyond Two Souls. Was it Amanda?
Someone. They look a lot like Elliot Page.
No, I meant in that game. In Heavy Rain, is it Amanda?
It might be.
I think it's Amanda.
Anyways, her name. It's been a while.
I was gonna see if this DLC costs money because that's almost like that's worth money, like levels of DLC the way it looked. Minecraft Marketplace. Yep. Let's see how much. No, that's okay. Hold on. This can't be right, because... Well, no, because it looks like the exact trailer we just watched. But it doesn't look... Hold on, I have Minecraft installed on here still, I think. Yeah, I've got the launcher. Let's see. I'm curious. But in the meantime, we can talk about, like, how does it look to you? I know we've talked about this at Minecraft, like, which is not the usual MO for Minecraft DLC. It's usually here's some skins, here's some new creatures, the end.
Yep.
That's usually about it.
That's how it be.
Might be on the one for Windows and not Java edition. Yeah. I'd have to change which one I use because I use the Java edition.
Well.
Come on. I'm trying to get to the purchase page so I can see like how much, like what we're looking at, if having to pay at all. God damn it! This other one keeps opening. I don't want you to open. So, free character creator item, the R2D2 t-shirt, and... Come on. This isn't answering my questions. Unlock this item for 1510 Minecraft coin, whatever that is. How much is it in dollars? What is this? What is this in dollars?
Why didn't you just type in price at the end of your previous search term?
Because I shouldn't have to. It should show me how much it is right here. To be fair. Okay. To be fair, they should just show me in dollars how much it's worth. Like, although then they can't trick children into buying coins. So I guess that's... Did I switch my password? Probably switched my password. That's why I'm struggling to log in. Yeah, I'm struggling to log in. Marketplace. But it does cost money because it's coins, whatever the whatever 1510 Minecraft coins are.
You want to work the conversion rate on that?
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, Google.
What?
1510
Why did you
Minecraft
do
toy.
this?
So it is 877 roughly with you have to buy a 9.99 Minecraft coin bundle, so I'd have to pay $10 essentially to get it. That's not terrible though for what $10 is not terrible for what's in there, but I don't know. I feel like why do I have to go through all these hoops to find out how much it costed? I can't even find like where to buy Minecraft coins. Where do I buy that? So pisses me off. It should not be this difficult. It should not be this difficult for me to give Microsoft my money. Am I wrong?
No, it's just very amusing. Like how frivolous
Yeah.
like this that is.
Yeah, like take my money, Microsoft. Take my money. But show me how much it's gonna cost. I can't buy it if I don't know.
They're like, we'll never tell you. It's like fucking just you bastard.
Where do I even buy it from?
In hell, I guess.
I have no clue where to buy this from. I like no clue whatsoever. But it's for Microsoft for Windows specifically, which I use Java Edition mostly, but
we've talked about it, all right.
yeah, let's move on to the next topic because this
This is going to agitate you.
Yeah, this is agitating me that it's not a simple like it should just be a simple here's where you buy it.
Yep. Nah, man, solve this fucking cube puzzle, and we might tell you where it is.
Like, even Fortnite makes V-Bucks so much simpler to work with, and V-Bucks is also like in that same what the fuckery of buying an in-game currency so you can buy shit in the game, right? But at least they make it simple. They're like, this is how much the V-Bucks are. This is how much the thing that you want is in V-Bucks. The end. Here, I can't even find where to buy Minecraft coins.
Fuck from it, man.
I'll have to ask Kinsey and them because they would know.
No.
I know they bought some Minecraft coins.
Probably.
So, okay, next up in the news, that won't surprise anybody who is a regular viewer of the show. Star Wars Hunters got delayed to next year. Reminder that we got the tie-in novel and reviewed it on this show already. And this game was originally supposed to drop on the holiday of 2022. This game, which is supposed to be a free game and has had a soft launch and also had new characters added to it constantly, according to their Instagram page, is competing with Eclipse for the Star Wars game to never be released.
Except this one's been fucking released.
Just not here.
Just not in America.
It's only been released in 2 countries for the soft launch.
Like,
India and the Philippines.
just send it.
Like, they've added new characters, like, a ton of new characters. They've had updates to this thing, and they're just like, 1.0 is not ready yet.
What do you mean? What do you
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah, it's not 1.0 yet. It's still not a 1.0.
Why?
Let's look at the most recent Instagram. Well, the most recent Instagram is them apologizing that it's going to be another year. It's mostly them saying that they want ranked mode to be added and some other stuff before it's released. But like, release it already at this point. Like, I'd play it in the state it's in. I've seen the gameplay. I will play it in the state it's in. You can add the other stuff later. It's not in a bad state. It's just they won't release it. And it's even more pissing people off that you're advertising it consistently and showing off all these updates that only 2 countries get to do.
What are you doing? Why?
Let me see.
Why, man? Come on.
Like, there's, like, yeah, it's the official... Where's the official...
You want to go to Star Wars Hunters Brazil? See what happens?
I need to just find a way to, like, pretend I'm in the Philippines and sign into Google Play and get a... Because it's supposed to be on Switch, Android, and iOS. So, you'll be able to play it.
Oh, cool.
Because Chromebook,
Yeah.
Mr. Chromebook, you'll be able to play it.
They're like, everyone gives me shit about it, but hey, it works.
Which means you're essentially playing it on PC. One of the few times where you can play the game on PC.
So with Seth, he is not, like, abandoned that Chromebook. It's like, well, of course not, because it still fucking works.
I mean, you don't have to abandon it, but I'd say get a computer along with, like, an actual computer along with it.
I refuse.
Yeah, so that same day, I think, that they announced that they... Let's see, let me make sure. So this was 2 days ago that they announced the break. Okay, it was so at the end of October, the last thing they did was, here's a new character thing, and also here's a behind the scenes of us making this new character for the game. And it's just like, why? So yeah, they added a Trandoshan.
Right.
As a trapper. They also... and so, I mean... Let me find their last, like... Yeah, so they're on update 0.18. So 18 updates into this game. That is not anywhere else but India and Philippines. I am actually jealous of y'all right now, because it's just like, I just want to... Just let me play this goddamn game.
Oh, well...
Anyways, that's my thoughts on this.
It was a fun book. I like
it. Yeah, it's so weird, because that game...
Fucking better.
Which, I mean, there's some good soundtracks this year, though. Like,
yeah.
There's some good video game scores this year.
For video game music.
So, like, it's got some competition, I bet. Let's see what it's up against. So it's also up against God of War Ragnarok.
Okay.
And hold on. And Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2?
I assume like a remake.
Yeah, the remake. But I'm
like that'd be a...
No, I know it's the remake. I don't think of the music when I think of Call of Duty games.
It does have some good music though.
It's just not
video games.
Yeah, it's just not the first thing on my mind when I think Call of Duty. Yeah. Like, it's not the first part of like a Call of Duty game that I'm like, that's the part that I really remember. It's usually the story for the campaigns, although I've heard at least 3, which just dropped, isn't that great.
Oh, for
Modern Warfare, yeah.
As a guy who played the original Modern Warfare 3, I remember exactly why, and I also really like how that game ends.
But the remake they dropped, I've heard that the new one is not.
Did they change some stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean the entire story, like Ghost didn't die in 2, so that kind of changes a lot of things when you think about it.
He's supposed to be dead. And I think he does die in 2.
No, the remake 2.
Oh.
So that changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that does change things.
Like, it changes some...
Kill him! Do it!
But, I mean, I remember 3, the original 3, the whole big thing was everybody was talking about no Russian.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big...
That happens in...
Or... Was that
supposed to happen in 2?
Oh, 2, sorry, 2. But... Yeah. Sorry, 2. Everybody talked about it for 2. I remember that being a huge thing. And then 3 was the final fight with him. And that one, yeah. That was the big thing. Which 3 also kind of had... Was it 2 or 3 that had, like, the optional thing where you could save somebody if you didn't kill them during an interrogation, and it turns out it's one of your guys. I can't remember which one.
Oh, God. There's a few times throughout the series that something like that happens. Like, if you're fast enough or...
Well, no. So, there's one where there's an interrogation with somebody, and they've got a bag over their head, and you basically decide if you... They basically tell you, hey, but if you shoot them in the knee, he lives, but like if you shoot him in the head, they die, and then either way you find out, oh, this was one of our guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Grammys will be on the 4th of February next year, so we'll find out.
All right.
I'm trying to see who else they're up against, or if that's just the 3. I'm also not the most knowledgeable on like current Call of Duty games, and like the last
Nor am I.
like the last ones I really enjoyed were the Black Ops games.
Yeah.
And I would say like Black Ops 2 was probably the last really
Yeah,
good
that's
one.
the last part I cared about.
Let's see, we got Album of the Year, Song of the Year, New Artist. Okay. Hogwarts Legacy and Stray Gods. Stray Gods might be able to take it.
Maybe.
I have to finish the game. Well, the other thing that's really intriguing about Stray Gods, since now we can go back to it, is that the songs change based on your choices.
Mm-hmm.
So that means like different versions of the songs exist. Like there's so many different variations of those songs. Like you said, you could get it to where you don't have a song with Apollo at all.
Yeah.
Apollo's song is so fucking good. Like, having to miss out on Apollo's song, I would be mad if I knew how good it was and I missed out on that. Although, I'm probably going to play a version where I miss out on it, but I didn't the first round. First run is what matters. First run, I got that really cool Apollo song. It's really sad.
Yeah. If there was any god that I imagine...
Apollo's a sad boy, though.
Well, fucking yeah.
Apollo's a sad boy. He's a very sad boy.
All that happens to Apollo is, for the most part, undeserved bad things.
Well, it also doesn't help that he is the god of prophecy and Stray Gods, and it's just like...
He's always the god of
prophecy. Yeah, but I mean, more so... Yeah. I never really think of him, though, on prophecy. I always think of, like, other domains that he's had, though, when I think of Apollo. So, like... But prophecy is one.
Yeah.
And so...
Actually, it and music are his two main things.
Yeah. And so... But they, like, clarify, like, they're like, no, if I tell you your future, that is your future.
He's like, I've seen this work. I'm just gonna not say anything.
Because if I tell you your future, it is essentially locked in.
Yeah. He's like, I've been around this long. We know how it works.
Yeah, because, I mean, every Greek tragedy is essentially, I'm going to try to avoid fate. Fuck.
That's not how it works.
So, yeah. And so, Stray Gods might take it, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of these win. Call of Duty's the only one that I just don't think of automatically, and I haven't heard the Hogwarts Legacy soundtrack because I skipped that game for reasons. I completely skipped that game on purpose. God of War Ragnarok could easily take it, though, because Brer McCreary is... Oh, he's so good. He's so good at it. But Stray Gods I could see that just flooring, because, like, once again, it's a full-on blown musical.
Yeah.
So, like... Whereas these other ones are... Unless they're just talking... Well, it says best score, so they might be just talking about the background score music, not the... So they might be ignoring the songs. I would not, though. I would not judge that correctly. I would probably give it to Stray Gods, and I haven't even finished the game. If I were to vote right now, and I were on, like, that voting team, I would... Stray Gods gets my vote, and I haven't finished it. Jedi Survivor, though, is really good. Jedi Survivor, I mean, the Fallen Order had really good music. So, I mean, yeah. It could go to literally any of those. That's the tough thing about awards, though, is, like, you feel like your thing that you love should get the award, but then you look at the list and you're like, damn it, any of these. Like,
Yeah.
there's very few years where you're like, oh, this one absolutely should have gotten
Like,
it.
just crushed it.
Yeah, usually these award seasons are very much like any of these. If you're being truly impartial about it, like if you're being truly impartial. So yeah, so that's it for news. Time to get in today's topic. Today we've got 4 different stories to talk about: Tales of Light and Life, Rogue Element, Chronicles from the Occlusion Zone, No Big Deal, Galactic Tales, Lost in the Woods, and Galactic Tales, Valnir and Laizhu is how I've been reading it in my head. Laizhu. I don't know how you've been reading it in your head.
Oh. Valnir and Laizhu.
Valnir and Laizhu. I've been heavy emphasizing the ZH more for Laizhu. Spoilers ahead. Let's do our little beep whoop.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil this.
We'll be discussing all 4 of them in a little in more depth than we did with the majority of the Tales of Light and Life book that we did, as these are shorter and there's only 4. Let's go chronological order, and we'll start with Tales of Light and Life, Rogue Element, because that chronologically that's the order. At least that's what I picked up. So this is the one we almost didn't get to review at all this year. And we talked about the story of how I picked it up, so we'll skip the drama there, and we'll just kind of jump into the story itself. And this is a good story.
Yeah.
I feel bad because it's a Barnes & Noble exclusive. In the future, that's one thing. If like, oh, we put a exclusive excerpt for a future book in this version, that's different. But putting a straight up part of the book in only a exclusive is kind of bull to me, especially because I feel like Rogue Element is so important after reading it. And it's so like, they already bought the book once, they should have all the content. Now our version came free, so I didn't feel bad about buying it, but we are in a special situation where we review books and therefore we get arcs every now and then.
Yep.
So that's a different situation, whereas I feel like the public should not get locked out. That's my one spiel regarding it outside of the narrative itself. As far as the narrative itself, Alyssa Wong knocks it out of the park. Not surprised. It's the writer of the Dr. Aphra comics. I like her writing style for that. I think it fits well for here. And while the characters Crash and all of them are not originally her characters, they're Daniel Jose Older's, I think she understands them well. And that's purposeful because DJO has come out and said Crash is based off of Alyssa. And so like, I'm not surprised that she understands this character very well. And I really like, I at the end of the day, I like the story. It has, I was not expecting, and I talked about this on the car ride, I was not expecting the horror moment that's in the story. There's a slight, real quick, like, horror moment.
You considered it horror, and my brain was just like, alright.
Well, because you tell me that you look at somebody's eyes and all of a sudden that you see holes, a bunch of holes in them.
Pretty weird.
It's also, especially because I know that there's a specific fear of like...
Oh, the whole tryptophobia thing.
Yeah.
But,
I don't personally have it, but I can see that that's what she was... I think that's what Alyssa was going for with that moment. And because we learned that... So basically we follow this character named Rue, and we're also following Crash. Crash mostly, but Crash is like doing her bodyguard thing, but she's also like trying to get rid of the Nihil presence on Corellia, because ever since the events of Midnight Horizon, the Nihil have just locked in even more on taking over Corellia, to the point that Corellian citizens are just dressing up as Nihil just so they can get by with their day. Because they're like, I'd rather just pretend I'm a Nihil than deal with getting hassled by the Nihil. Right? And so Crash and her group are taking them out when they can. They find this security cam footage, this warehouse, where it turns out that the Nihil, the reason that they're on Corellia, we learned the real reason outside of the proximity of dealing with knocking out our Starlight Beacon, which was part of the plan. The other plan is that they took over the warehouses there, so that way they can build these droids, these scav droids that just rip machinery apart so quickly.
Yeah.
Like the fastest ever done. And obviously this would be used to tear apart ships and speeders.
Yeah, like a crate full of these things would fuck up a ship.
Yeah. And so this is bad.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
In a setting such as Star Wars, the ability to just tear a ship apart in seconds is not great. I mean, it's great for you if you're the one who can do it, but it's not great if you're not.
Yeah.
And so they what else was it? It was the other part of the security cam footage is that we meet our other protagonist, but we don't know that yet. Rue, who is dressed up in Nihil garb and using his lightsaber to just slice these Nihil.
Bro is done.
Yeah, he is taking the Elzar man approach. But for a second I was like, is this Comac? But then I reread it and I was like, oh no. The build does not fit.
Yeah.
If it was Comac, I'd be even more angry that this was an exclusive short story. If it was Comac, that would make it...
Nah, Comac's... Meanwhile, Comac's, like, off in the fucking Bahamas. He's like... Yeah, I'm glad I left.
And so,
But, like, right now...
Yeah.
Rue.
Yeah, so Rue... So, eventually, Crash and her girlfriend, Sphino, they go... That Sphino's like, I'm gonna dress up in my performer gear, and we're gonna just go out and into the public and go to the marketplace and kind of scope out to see if anybody knows anything about this Nihil Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily enough, day one of doing this, whether it's the Force or coincidence, however you want to look at it, author writing the story that way.
I think it's the hand of the narrator, otherwise this wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just making the joke because they make the joke as well in the book. But they run into Rue on the first day, who we learn in flashbacks.
Motherfucker works at a candy factory.
Yeah, now. we well, and it's like a small shop though. It's like a small stall where they make, like in the marketplace where they make it right there, and you see, like, you can watch them make it.
Yeah.
But we learn through flashbacks why Rue is doing what he does, and it's his master dying, because when is it ever not that?
Yeah.
So when the callback was made from Coruscant for all the Jedi to go to Coruscant, they refused. Yep. Basically, it was more because Rue refused, and then his master was like, well, I'm going to back you up on that decision. And because basically they said, we need to help the people of Corellia, because what kind of Jedi would we be if we just up and left them? Although that didn't stop the rest of the Corellian Jedi Temple from leaving, which that was a first for me learning. I did not realize that there was a Corellian Jedi Temple, because I don't think Midnight Horizon even mentions it. It's been a minute, though.
Like, they stay there, but they don't talk with anyone there.
Yeah.
More than, like, oh, cool, you're...
Okay, so we know it exists. We just don't know anybody there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a while since I've read.
It's been a while since I've read Midnight Horizon. So. You're the new coworker moving in. Cool. Don't ever talk to me.
Yeah, like, it's been a while since I've read Midnight Horizon, so
yeah,
it's a little foggy. It's one of my favorites of Phase 1.
But it's been a bit.
Yeah, it's been a bit. But so they defend Corellia, and then she dies to the Nihil, and so he basically does the, I'm going into hiding because I don't want to be a Jedi, but I'm also going to go kill some Nihil with my Jedi abilities. And he's also the one who blows up the scav droid warehouse, the first scav droid warehouse. Like, he just blows it up.
He's like, fuck it.
Like, he doesn't know what they're doing. He just goes in.
His assumption is these guys are bad. I should blow it up. Which...
He's not wrong.
Good guessing, basically.
Good idea, wrong motivation.
You might want to know what they're making first.
It's essentially the good idea, bad play of how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, because of an injury that he sustained on his arm during the cam footage that Crash saw, she's able to identify that Rue is the Nihil Jedi because he
Also, the fact that like his boss
is
calls them over, and he's like, "Please don't come over, please." Eddie, how would you like to meet Rue? He's one of my newer workers. Fuck.
Also, check out all my candy because you're a famous celebrity.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, the boss called them over. I like that the boss is a Oh, what's
They're
that?
No?
No, they're the
Chadra fan.
Chadra fan, yeah.
Sorry.
Like Doctor what's his fuckface
Yeah.
in Phase 1.
Fuck that guy.
Although he switches sides. But for the wrong reasons. It's more out of fear of Markion than anything.
He's like, "But I have a family." I'm like, "Yeah, and I don't care."
He's like, "I'm afraid of Markion." And it's like, you should have been afraid of him for a lot longer than this.
Oh, you're scared of him now, are you?
But yeah, so eventually they do a mission together because they happen to be working the same mission and find each other, which Crash predicted. Crash was like, "Oh, we're likely gonna run into him."
Yeah.
And so they run into each other. We get the scary eyes moment because it's a self-defense measure of his race.
Sorry. Didn't mean to hit you with the brief horror game flash screen.
Yeah. It's a defense mechanism for his race. I forget what it's called, but basically they're like a blue, like a pale, almost translucent race.
I thought they were called like Slims.
I got it.
Yeah, you have the.
I have the book in front of me. Why am I not cheat sheeting this?
It's an open book test.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like the fruit scene, the in the flashback with Master Conathir.
How
she's like,
him with it.
Yeah, she's like, "Here, try this sweet fruit. Ah, it's sour. It's spicy."
Give him a Sour Patch Kid.
Yeah. Oh, where is it?
Might be.
Oh, Lucem.
Ah.
Because they're like that makes sense because they're kind of they kind of illuminate a little because like they have like almost pale skin, but they like glow, like it can glow at certain points, and they have like straight black eyes with a bunch of pupils, and they're like white specks so it almost looks a night sky for their eyes. And
I've been playing too much Bloodborne because that did not freak me out at all.
But during the holes in the eye scene, and basically all the white specks become holes, and it's just like, no, thank you. I mean, even if you've been playing Bloodborne, that is something that you would see in Bloodborne. Why? Yeah. Which means, yes, that makes it horror by definition.
Yeah, like there are pigs and like other animals with lots of eyes, and I'm just like, damn.
Which they don't even have lots of eyes; they just have lots of pupils with them. Yeah. Which that's not scary. Like the night sky one isn't scary. That's actually kind of cool and pretty.
That's more cool than.
But the holes in the eyes is where it gets. But yeah, so they basically come together and are like, "Okay, let's work together," because you're a renegade Jedi. I'm a mercenary, essentially.
Yep.
And she's like, "You don't have to be a Jedi to do good things. I know so many people that are not Jedi that do good things," and names a lot of characters that we know.
Yeah.
And it's like, Zine, I know Zine, and Zine's not technically a Jedi.
The best
which is probably the best example because it's like Force sensitive who's not a Jedi, just like you now.
The best ending bit of that conversation is, I don't think Jedi usually blow up warehouses,
but Ram Jamaram might.
And I had to stop for a minute and think to myself,
you know she's right. Ram Jamaram would.
No, not that. I'm like, do they blow up? They blow up things a lot, come to think of it.
Later on, yeah.
Yeah.
At least not in the High Republic era as much.
Not usually.
But, like, once we hit the Clone Wars, yeah.
Meanwhile, Race to Crash Point Tower is like a Fast and Furious movie, but with children.
Which Fast and Furious film, though?
I don't know.
Is it a good one or a bad one?
I don't know. When were they good?
The Fast and the Furious.
So the first one.
No. That's the fourth one. Or is that one Fast and Furious?
I don't know.
Because for some reason the fourth one they try to do a soft reboot, which is when they start doing the superpowers shit and making the cars basically their superpowers.
I don't know.
It's when they really went balls to the walls. After like 4 onward is where they're just like the cars can do anything.
Yeah. This is not a
Whereas 1 and 2 are more crime like films with cars. They're like heist movies with heist crime, like the first 2 are about how Brian is an undercover cop. Like the first, and he's in the first film he's trying to stop Vin Diesel from stealing DVD players.
Yeah. How dare he steal DVD players?
To be fair, Blu-ray wasn't out yet. And then the second one is like Vice City, like it's Miami Vice, but once again Brian's undercover but he's trying to stop a drug lord who's also like a warlord type thing, if I remember correctly. Like, but it's mostly drugs. It's the drugs. It's the DEA, because he's like working with the DEA because his new girlfriend in that one is like a DEA agent. Okay, we're talking about a completely different franchise now. I'd say it's one of the good ones though. Crest Point is probably one of the good ones.
Me over here taking shots at the fucking Fast and Furious.
Look, they're good for popcorn films. They're fun action flicks. They're not meant to be thinker films. They're just fun. I didn't like how the last one ended though.
Oh well.
I don't like the way they did the part 1, part 2. It was kind of, because 11's gonna be a part 2. It's kind of dumb how they're doing it.
Oh man. Anyhow, on to Star Wars.
So that's Rogue Element.
Yeah. There's the Occlusion Zone one.
Chronicles from the Occlusion Zone. No big deal is the next one, which we get our first look at those characters because we've never seen a picture of them. So we get the return of my favorite non-Force using Star Wars family in the High Republic. We get the the Ardens. Yeah, the Ardens, Joss and Pica. I was trying to remember their first names. And for the first time we get a picture of them because so this is a Star Wars Insider exclusive short story, and usually for the Star Wars Insiders they do like cover art for them, even though they're like inside the book. But we get to see them as well as the new RDC member.
Yeah.
So basically it's them working with the Republic Defense Coalition, and basically they get a job from Admiral Kronar, who's like, hey, we found a Nihil ship that's kind of like skirting the edge of Republic space and it's dead in the water.
Yeah.
Can you go pick it up? Because we want to get the information that's on it, because then we might be able to pass through the Occlusion Zone. Because reminder, the Occlusion Zone in the High Republic is this it's this
they put mines in hyperspace.
Yeah, it's
long and short of it.
Yeah, well, not in hyperspace, but at the exits.
But like where you would get.
Yeah, where you get off the highway, the space highway. They're like, hey, you want off the space highway and into the outer rim? Fuck you. And so, just a reminder of what that was. So the Occlusion Zone is the other side. It's the outer rim. So it's anywhere that's under the control of Markion right now, which is pretty much the outer rim.
Yep.
Because, once again, Star Wars is about taking over the outer rim. That's really what Star Wars is about.
We'd like to help the outer rim. Fuck off. We don't want you here.
Fine, we're going to take over you by force.
No.
God damn it.
No.
Yeah.
That's how that song and dance goes.
Yeah. Throughout the entire saga. Well, except for the sequel films. The sequel films is less about that.
Yeah, but they've got their own problems.
But everything up till, like, even the original trilogy is basically, like, taking over the Outer Rims.
Yeah.
And the Outer Rim fighting back, and kind of how the West was won, essentially. And then, I guess, the sequel trilogy is what happens when the West is won.
Yeah. A lot of other bad shit happens. That's what man-made horrors.
Well, and also the West kind of continues to fight back still.
Yep. Didn't like it.
Yeah, it doesn't like being tamed. And so, and also we find out that the government is bad. That's essentially what happens when the West is won. There we go. Yeah, which also fits the theme of westerns, because westerns are always like the government bad.
Yeah, that's just how it works.
Yeah, I mean Red Dead Redemption 2, government bad.
Yeah.
Any John Wayne film, government bad. Clint Eastwood, government bad. So yeah, so yeah, so they
I'm worried about him, man.
oh, about the agents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go
They're
out.
not doing well.
So they go before they go out. One, Pika decides to act. Well, no. So she doesn't drop this, but it is her fault that she didn't tell him.
Yeah.
So there's a new. I'm cheating. Occlusion Zone. To be fair, I read these like a couple days ago, so give me a little.
No, it's fine. I read most of them yesterday, and I'm having trouble.
Casset, yeah, head of Casset. I knew there was an H somewhere. Head of Casset. So yeah, head of Casset's niece. So, which not a Force user, so that fits, because not all family members in Star Wars, just because you have the Force doesn't mean you're Force using. And so basically her reason for joining the RDC is because of that. And so at least that's what it reads to me. But she's the one that found this information out. Well, no. Some engineer found it, and so...
Yeah, and they were like, hey, I don't know what to do with this.
And so Admiral Krenar is like, just shut up about it, and then he goes to tell them. Like, literally the only 5 people who know are the engineer, head of Kesset's niece, the Adrians, and Krenar. Literally the only people who know. And Krenar is like, nobody else needs to find out, because we don't need to stir any panic. Plus, it'll give us the advantage if there's some Nihil stuff on here that can get us into the Occlusion Zone. And so we don't want them finding out that we know about this ship.
Yep.
Unfortunately, head of Casset's niece, because she's a really good detective, figures out that Pika is pregnant. And just says it openly, assuming that that Joss and Pika knew. Pika knew, Joss did not. Joss takes it about as well as you would expect an upcoming father who didn't know that he was going to be a father takes it. I think he takes it relatively well.
He takes it pretty good.
I mean, he has a little panic attack, but then after recovering from it, he's like, okay, I'm down for this.
He's like, when were you going to tell me? And she's like, I was going to tell you in about 20 minutes, but...
She was like, I was going to wait till we, left for the mission.
Might as well do it now.
Now that it's out. And so, yeah. And so they leave Hedda Cassett's niece behind because she wants to go, but they're like, just stay behind for now. Because, Joss didn't want to do this job. Krenar was like, what?
Tell him to fuck off.
Yeah, Krenar was like, here's this job. And then...
I'd prefer it if you did it willingly, but I could just tell you to do it.
Because you work for me, but... I mean, it's up to you.
I prefer it when my people work under me want to do things.
Yeah. Which, you know what? That's good leadership from Krenar. I can respect that. Krenar is like, I want people to want to do what they're doing. I don't want to force them, but I will, because this is still a military type system. Yeah. Like, they're not really a official military for the Republic, because that's a very clear distinction that the High Republic really tries to drive home, is that the Republic does not have an official military still. The Republic Defense Coalition is just volunteers who have basically agreed to be a defense coalition, exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. They're basically space cops.
Yeah.
With a little bit heavier gun weaponry. That's about it.
To the SWAT team.
Yeah. Maybe, I mean, they're a little heavier than a SWAT team, though. But
yeah,
they still have, like, military weaponry levels, but they very much try to act less as a military and more as a second line.
Yeah.
Like, we are just in case something happens. I guess it's closer to, like, what, like, National Guard would be.
Yeah.
Like, but, like, state National Guard, not, like, federal National Guard.
Yeah, that would probably be closer to it.
And so it's all volunteer based, and we already talked about the story where they volunteered for it, because that was like one of the first short stories we talked about for the High Republic stuff. And so, and which they're captains now because of everything they've been through, by the way, because they've been through so much at this point. But they go on the mission, and they immediately discover a problem. Like, immediately. Like, they're not even out of hyperspace yet, and they're like, yeah, we did a scan of that ship again, just to make sure. And turns out there's 2 signs of life on there when we were told there would be nothing.
Yeah. You're gonna have a different problem in about 3 minutes.
So they go ahead and call Cassett back, and they're like, hey, we might need some backup, because we were gonna do this without backup, but we might need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some life signs. And Cassett's like, okay, cool, and she starts to give a warning when they get some interference on the comms. And by this point, they're out of hyperspace, and it's revealed more Nihil ships coming out of hyperspace. And that's where the story ends.
Oh no, shock and horror.
Oh no, it's a trap, just like they suspected. They just want a regular life.
God damn it.
The Adrians just want to have a family and go to the beach.
No.
And so, that's the plan. Pika's like, I just want to get rid of as much Nihil before we take leave so we can raise a family properly. It's to get rid of our problems so that way we don't have them when we have a kid.
Yep.
God.
Yeah.
This wasn't even a part 1 or a part 2 story. This was just no big deal, and then the next one's a different title, but it's still part of the Chronicles from the Occlusion Zone title. Alright, now we're jumping out of the High Republic and doing the last 2 stories that we'll get for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. First up is Galactic Tales Lost in the Woods. I'm smiling and he's laughing because there's a story behind that one.
Do you want to tell it or should I?
You should. Because you're mad at me a little bit at this, but I worked it out because of how I got Rogue Element. Like, I worked my ass off to get Rogue Element.
He did. So, when he sends this to me, I have a problem reading it. And I read the first page, perfectly fine. Second page, entirely different scene and characters talking to each other. I'm like, what the fuck happened? Where are the first guys?
Also, it was probably sideways, because when I opened it was sideways
as well. So I had to rotate it 3 different times.
Really? I only had to rotate it once.
Oh, how nice.
Reading it on computer seemed pretty easy.
So I go and I rotate it to where it needs to be for me to read it, right? And I look and I'm like, okay, 91, 95, where the hell are the other 3 pages? So I scroll down and everything is out of order.
Yeah, it's 91, then they jump to 94, and then on the right you have 92 and 93 after that, and then
and I'm like, what happened?
Thankfully,
I was able to get through it, but like,
and because thankfully all the pages are numbered at the bottom,
yeah.
So like if you read that, you can read it anywhere. Okay, so where I got the scan from usually is very reliable, because like it's where we've gotten most of our Star Wars Insider scans.
But every once in a while.
But apparently this time, whoever did the scan, which they really fucked us over on that one, because they did that. They put them out of order, and I didn't know until like 2 days ago, because that's when I decided to read it, and I read it, and as I saw the problem, I was like, God damn it, Seth is gonna be so mad. And sure enough, here we are.
I'm not terribly upset.
It's just more frustrating.
It's like, God damn it.
Yeah. So, yeah. But we talked about it in the car ride to make sure that we understood the story, because I understood it. You understood it too. You just didn't realize you understood it.
Yeah, I was like, there was a major.
Yeah.
Guy.
So we're gonna talk about it anyway. So let's do that. So Leia gives this major, I forget his name, but she gives this major an assignment to go find a pilot from Rogue Squadron from Wedge's group, who crashed somewhere in the woods. So along with this major, they send C-3PO because they need a translator because the pilot doesn't speak well, he doesn't speak basic, but he understands basic.
Mm-hmm.
And the major does not speak the language of this alien. He was just like, get off! I'm not a god! And so they firstly find a Imperial pilot who crashed. Because, so this is post... This is post-battle of Endor. Death Star 2's been destroyed. So that's why there's a lot of ships that are crashed on the planet, because when the Death Star exploded, a bunch of ships just kind of got hit by the after effect of the explosion and got drifted. And so, in the case of some, they crash landed on Endor because of this. And so, that's why the Rebel pilot's there, and that's why the Imperial pilot crashed. So they find the Imperial pilot injured, and Major's like, fuck them, they're an Imperial. Let's get going. And Wicked's like, nah, the Ewok way is to help anybody who's injured, and they're not our enemy anymore because we won. And 3PO translate that, and he's just like, well, no, I don't want to do that. And Wicked's like, come on. And he's like, fine, because you're our guide, and it would be rude to not work with the people that are hosting us.
Go ahead.
And so they go in to help the Imperial pilot. She is not happy about this.
I will fucking shoot you. Yeah, I would rather die.
She aims a gun at them. And she takes the news of the Imperial loss not great. She goes through the 5 stages of grief, in fact, pretty quickly. Because she starts with denial, and then she's angry because she pulls a gun out on them. I don't think she ever bargains, though.
No, because there's nothing to bargain for.
Yeah. And she doesn't really go through depression. She goes through the 3 stages of grief, I guess.
Yep.
Denial, anger, and acceptance. Da. It's no longer Dabda, it's Da.
Sometimes people speed run it.
Yeah.
She speed ran.
She went
in the course of 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's usually Dabda. For her, it was Da. And so, Wicket stays behind to heal her, and the rest of our heroes go to find the Rebel pilot, who quickly tries to warn them that, hey, there's a monster, there's a trap, and of course our heroes do not listen, because they think he's just crazy. And then they fall into a pit where the monster is, and the trap was.
Yep.
Because our heroes are dumb.
The Republic's best and brightest were busy at the moment.
Rebellions.
It's not the Republic.
It's not
Rebellion. Fuck.
It's not the New Republic yet. They haven't actually forced Mas Amedda to sign any peace treaties
Rebellion,
yet.
Resistance. One of the 3 fucking R's at this point.
And so eventually the Imperial pilot, after Wicket heals her up and does a little bit of, hey, you owe us, by increasing pressure on the bandages around her. She agrees to go help them, and she kills the monster, and basically is like, man, it's a good thing the Rebellion won, because
we would not be helping.
Yeah, we would not be helping them the same way they've helped me, so I guess the good guys won.
Yep.
And so, that's the end of Lost in the Woods. Very simple story.
Yep.
For one that got screwed over by the internet when it came to my copy.
Yeah.
And lastly, I guess we did a little out of order, because this one, I guess, should have happened first. We should have read this one first.
Yep.
But, which was Valnir and Laizhu, which is about during Jabba's palace. So going back a bit, like I said. And has a little cameo from Lando.
Yeah.
And basically it's about a cook and a waitress that work at Jabba's palace. And the cook is indentured servant, while the waitress is choosing to work there just to gain some money, because they're broke. Because she's not indentured servant. She's not. They make that one clear. She just is broke. Whereas, so Valnir is the indentured cook who basically got screwed by Jabba, because she was paying off her debt, her protection racket money pretty well, and then Jabba's like, let's increase the protection racket money cost. And she's like, well, I can't pay anymore because you increased it on me. And he's like, well, you work for me now.
Yep.
And so, and ever since, she's been working for him. But Laizhu is a waitress who got screwed over by her boyfriend, because he basically promised they'd become like a band, like they'd basically become a band and go around the galaxy and do shit. Like they were gonna go to Coruscant, have a big gig.
So that was a lie.
Yeah, that was a lie. It turns out he was just taking all of her money for himself, and then he left her stranded on a planet and took all her money. Left her on Tatooine. And so she makes it to Tatooine eventually, and she's like, "Well, I guess I'll be a waitress for Jabba, because I need some money."
Yep.
And so, they end up there on a lucky day of all days. They end up the day that the Sarlacc Pit events happen.
Woo!
Because so basically some rich investors from the Empire show up, and they are trying to do some drug dealings with Jabba, and part of that is they pay him in like gems. And
how rich do you need to be? You pay me in gemstones. That's how fucking powerful.
And so I think it's it's not a Gamorrean, it's a Snivian. I know it's a Snivian who did the counting, because I immediately thought of my favorite Snivian in Star Wars, Griff. Although Griff would not be that evil. So a Snivian does the counting of the gems, and then pockets one, which is that is a Griff thing to do. It's to steal from a crime lord. And so the Snivian puts one of the gems into his pockets, and Laizhu sees this and is like, "Oh, if the guy counting Jabba's money's doing this, then I can definitely get away with this." And so instead of just one, she takes a whole tray full.
Yep.
And also throughout this story, she's talking about her crush that she has on Lando, who she sees as like this mysterious henchman guard. She's like, "Oh, he's got these eyes that." And so she runs into him and bumps into him and drops the gems, and he's like, "Oh no, I got you covered. You go, get out of here."
What, you want to get in the way of Jabba getting his fucking frogs to eat?
Because a Rodian guard, one of the bounty hunters, comes up, mercenaries for Jabba, is like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And yeah, Lando's story is like, "Oh, she needs to get to the sail barge with his frogs, so he can eat."
You want to fucking get in the way of that? Huh?
And so, turns out he follows her, because it turns out she does not go to the sail barge as we figured she wouldn't. Nope. She goes straight to Valnir and is like, "Hey, look at all this money. We need to get out of here."
Valnir's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
But then immediately is like, "You know what? Actually, let's go with it."
Fuck it. Let's get out of here.
And so, thankfully, they have an escape route via the Imperial officers' fancy speeders. And since everybody went to go watch Luke and Han and everybody get tossed into the Sarlacc pit, the only person they run into is that Rodian guard, and they knock him out pretty quickly.
They come across another guard, but they're like, "How about I just throw this money over there?"
Well, they don't even throw it. So what they do is, so the only last guard they come across after that is the guy guarding the speeders, and they're just like, "Hey," drops right in front of them. "Is that your gem? I think that's yours, and you just dropped it. You should pick it up." And of course, the guard is dumb, so he doesn't figure it out right away. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, that is mine. What do you know?
Oh, what do you know?
I should go put this somewhere safe." And lets them get in the speeders, and that's it. It's a nice story. It's a cute little story. Yeah. That's it. That's the 4 short stories for this week. Obviously, the High Republic ones were the big highlights, I think. But that's because we're just excited to be doing Phase 3. I thought the Galactic Tales, the last of the 40th anniversaries, were nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing outstanding, but good. I thought Rogue Element was outstanding. That one I'd probably give like an 8.5, 9. Mm-hmm. Chronicles from the Occlusion Zone, I need more.
Yeah.
For now, I'd give it like a 7. But it's definitely on the I want more of this 7. Like it's a high 7.
I think my problem is I read all of these like yesterday rather than.
Yeah, I kind of spread them out a bit.
Yeah.
Lost in the Woods, 6.5.
Eh.
It's above average, but it's not like anything to write home about.
Yeah.
Uh, Valnir and Laizhu is kind of around the same area, almost a 7. Like, once again, good. These are all good stories. There's just nothing outstanding.
Nothing particularly impressive from
Yeah.
like the 40th anniversary Galactic Tales ones.
Yeah. Whereas Rogue Element, I think, is the standout.
Yeah.
But that's because I think it's because all, like, when we talked about Tales of Light and Life, all those stories were outstanding. So I think it's part of, since it was part of this collection of stories, I think
Yeah.
that might influence some of that writing. Whereas the other 3 are for Star Wars Insider magazine, which is not a hit at them or a shot at them. I think Star Wars Insider short stories can be really good. I just think that these are not the most impressive.
Yeah.
They're not on.
It's kind of a like, oh, of course these guys weren't as good when we have like the fucking valedictorian.
Yeah, like we're. Yeah.
Like they didn't have a shot to
Yeah.
begin with. That's not their fault.
Yeah.
They got assigned against them.
Yeah, like this is essentially a novel comparative to just a magazine, so it's not fair that we read them that way. But I think they're all good and worth checking out for different reasons. I just would put Rogue Element way higher on the scale for obvious reasons. And then I would put like No Big Deal like somewhere in the middle, and then put Lost in the Woods and Valnir and Laizhu near the end of it. But like they're not bad because they're near the end of it. Like we're still talking about good stories. Like they're still above bad. They're just not the best of the crop. If that makes sense.
They're serviceable. They're just not, like I said earlier, it's not really a fair comparison.
Yeah. But that's everything for this week. Thank you all for watching today's episode of Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I've been your host, Caleb. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe to us. You can find us at Escape Reality Films on YouTube, Kick, Twitch, and TikTok. You can also show your support for us by joining our Patreon, which is at Escape Reality Films. Shout out to Jennifer Brantley.
Yo!
There you can watch our YouTube content before it's publicly available. So if you want to watch sessions of our Dungeons & Dragons Acquisitions Incorporated campaign before anyone else, which currently you can watch 2 sessions that aren't yet public, that's how you can do it for $5 a month. You can also find me on Twitter at EscapeReality94 and Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Caleb.Lockwood. Seth?
You can catch me every Sunday with some friends of ours playing Trials of Naboo from 5 to 7 Central Standard Time. So last week we had a talk and we're still planning on finishing the job on that government official.
Yep.
And we've got a plan that involves helping their sister sneak them out of the city like they wanted to and killing them when they get outside of town. Hopefully it'll work. Other than that, I ain't got much else.
Alright, well, once again, thank you all for watching. Join us next week as we finally get to talk Ahsoka. I have spoken.
Y'all have